Last month, I went on a yoga retreat, and in this week's episode of the Face Yoga Expert podcast, I am going to share with you, quite vulnerably, definitely very openly, all the life lessons that I learned during that week and all the things that I'm now bringing with me into my day-to-day life. So I'm going to be very direct, I'm going to be very honest, and I'm really going to share things that hopefully will give you a little bit of inspiration as well to help you just look and feel the best version of yourself, because this is what this podcast is all about. Really simple, natural techniques, not only for the face, but also for the mind and body to look and feel the best version of yourself. Now, let me give you a little bit of context about this yoga retreat. So it was in Turkey in a place called Dalyan, and I'd never been to Turkey before. And I was invited to come along to the retreat with one of my friends who is a yoga teacher, Jane, and another friend of mine who I've known for a very long time, who was also teaching there, Bex. And I was coming as a student. I was gifted the experience to actually just enjoy it and then to share on social media my thoughts and experiences about the retreat. So I definitely went there with one intention, and the intention I set before I went was to have a rest. Now, before I went on the yoga retreat, I actually had a lot of anxiety. I had to book my own flight for it, and I booked my flight probably about 6 weeks before I went. And as I was booking it, I could feel my heart racing. I was having chest palpitations, and I really wasn't sure whether it was the right thing to do to go. And the biggest reason was I haven't been away from my children for a full week before. So they're now 9 and 13, so they're by no means babies, and they are used to me traveling. So ever since they've been little, I've often gone away for 1, 2, or 3 nights, mostly for work, sometimes for pleasure. So it's not like they are used to me being here 24/7 for the last 13 years. Plus, they are used to Bruce and I being here together and doing 50-50 in terms of the childcare and household duties. And we've always made that decision that we are 50% co-parents and we are 50% in our business together. So again, it's not like the girls are used to only me looking after them. They're used to half the time being with my husband Bruce, and quite often being with us both together, and we're both doing everything in an evening or in a morning before school or after school together. So I knew that they wouldn't mind. In fact, I had a little chat with them both individually, and they were both completely fine about me going. And I've always brought them up to be very honest and open, and actually I know if they would have felt uncomfortable, and even if they wouldn't have felt comfortable to say, I can definitely pick up on their energy. But I could tell they were both really relaxed about me going and didn't see it as any big deal at all. And it was during the week, so I knew that they'd be busy with school, and they both do lots of different sports and after school clubs. So actually there wasn't going to be a huge amount of time for them to miss me. So I went ahead and I booked the flights. Now, in the few weeks leading up to going, I really struggled, and I struggled in a very different way, not because I was going away from the girls, but actually because I had a lot to sort out with work. Now, if you've been following my journey for a while, and particularly listening to my business podcast, you will know for about the last 18 months, I've been working a sort of month on month off way. Now, let me explain more about this. Right at the beginning of doing this, and I think this was December 2023, when I first started doing this, I would take an entire month off. And that was after 18 years of not ever taking a day off. So despite the fact that I've always found work-life balance within my day, taking time for self-care, I would never take extended amounts of time off. But at the end of that year in 2023, I knew I needed to take an entire month off. So I did double the amount of work the month before, and then I took the whole month off. I didn't even open an email. I didn't open my social media. I did absolutely nothing. And I continued doing this month on month off all the way through 2024. So then about halfway through 2024, my months off became a little bit less months off. I was doing a lot more behind the scenes scenes work. I was doing a lot more strategy of the business. So although I wasn't showing up and filming and teaching during those months, I was doing a lot more of the creativity and strategy, which really suited me well. And as we've gone into 2025, again, I've been having this month on, month off, but it's most certainly been that on my months off, I have been doing a little bit of work every day, but not to the extent I would do on my so-called months on. So technically at the moment, as I'm recording this, we are end of October, and October for me is technically a month off, but I am doing this podcast. I've got to do a little bit of filming for a brand. I've been doing some behind the scenes strategy stuff. I have been doing a little bit of social media work, not a huge amount, and definitely it served me very well having these months where I can just pull back a little bit. Now, and the reason I'm talking about all this is because in September, when I was getting ready to go on the retreat, and the retreat started on the 6th of October, I really went full pelt, because rather than thinking, okay, if I don't get double the amount of work done, if I don't do everything in September, then I've got plenty of time in October to do it all. I said to myself, I want a complete break while I'm on this retreat. So I really push myself, I think a little bit too much, to get everything sorted before I went. Now, we are now at the end of October. I am doing a little bit of work. I'm much more relaxed about it. However, I didn't really have that mindset at the end of September. Plus, it was quite bad timing because of that last week of September, I was in my luteal phase. So that week before my period. And again, if you're a regular listener of this podcast, if you follow my journey for a while, you'll know I suffer from PMDD. Now, this is a more severe form of PMS, and it's something I've suffered from ever since I got my period when I was 14. And I've learned over the years how to really deal with this, use lots of different holistic tools to help myself feel less or no symptoms. And actually what I've realized since I've been doing this more month on, month off since December 2023, in my months off, I can be almost symptom free. In my months on, I definitely still get symptoms. Now, most people wouldn't even notice that I get these symptoms. I think over the years, I've been very good at masking them. So actually the feelings inside of maybe extreme sadness or extreme anger or irritability, I keep very much inside. Now, I'm not saying this is a good thing to do or a healthy thing to do, but also I have learned to understand it. I track my cycle very, very well. I talk about it to a lot of people, not only publicly like this, but my husband understands exactly where I am in my cycle. I talk to my friends about it. My girls even know when it's a week before my period. And actually I can allow myself to just be a little bit gentler with myself, because the biggest trigger for symptoms for me is having high stress levels, overwhelm, and high cortisol. And actually, when I'm having those months on, I often find that my stress levels are higher and therefore PMDD symptoms are worse. And also my PMDD symptoms can often manifest themselves as physical as well. So my immune system may be weaker. I may feel physically more tired. I might get sore throat. And this is all part and parcel of having this condition. And again, if I really tune into myself, I know the way to manage it now, and I can be symptom free. I've got my period at the moment, and actually the last week I've had almost no symptoms at all. I didn't even feel like PMS, let alone PMDD, because I've had that yoga retreat and I've had the month off. And even though I've been working, it's been very gentle, it's been very behind the scenes. But going back to September, I really struggled. I was feeling physically tired. I was feeling mentally tired. I was feeling irritable. I was feeling sad. I was feeling low. And again, no one really knew about this apart from my husband. And also I talked to a few close friends about it, but I was going into that retreat really feeling like that. And actually, luckily, my period came just before the retreat. And when my period comes, I get instant relief. So it's almost as though that I get 3 weeks of the month where I feel fully, truly myself, and 1 week a month where I really don't feel fully, truly myself. So I knew by the time the retreat came, I'd be near the end of my period. And I'd been going into a phase of my cycle where I'd feel energized. So I had all that to deal with as well. But eventually the retreat came and I was ready to go. We then arrived at the retreat and we had storms. So we had pouring rain day and night for 2 days. So everything I was looking forward to in terms of getting a little sunshine in Turkey, just walking about, enjoying the area, having some time to do yoga outside, none of that was possible. So it brought up straight away challenges for me. Now, having those challenges straight away, as I'm going to talk to you about in a bit, was brilliant because it actually gave me some lessons. And because I had that time and space, because I was there without the pressures of work, without the pressures of family, I was able to work through my response to those situations and come through the other end. So the conclusion of the retreat was it was transformational. And actually, Jane, our yoga teacher, had a word for the retreat that we had to guess. And I, funnily enough, halfway through the retreat, sent her a voice note, said something about the word transformational, and she said, Danielle, you've guessed it. You've guessed the word of the retreat. And it really was for me transformational. So I really want to get into 13 lessons I learned. I'm going to tell you a few more stories as we go through. So let's get into it. So lesson number 1 is the way that I look after myself in the next 6 years is going to determine how the next 50 are. And this was definitely a big download, an intuitive download I got during the retreat. This wasn't actually anything to do with the experience there. It was just a feeling I got because I had that space to actually listen to those intuitive downloads. Now, you may remember that my word of this year is longevity, and I always have an intention word, something I want to bring in throughout the year. And this really came in very strongly during the retreat. And while I was there, I thought what I do between the ages of 44, so I'll be 44 in February, and 50 is really going to affect how I am between the age of 50 and 100. Now, I want to live till 100, longer if I can, but if I can get to 100, that is definitely the aim. And I know that I really have to look after myself now. So that comes with so many aspects to it. This is what I eat. This is a way that I exercise. This is the balance I have in my life. This is the rest I have in my life. This is the way that I look after my hormones. It's all of it. That is going to determine who I am and how I am, because I not only want to live until I am 100, but I want to thrive. I want to be healthy. I want to be strong. I want to be happy, and I want to keep getting fitter and healthier. I think there can be a narrative that when we're over 50, we're not as fit, we're not as healthy, we're weaker in some way. But I actually believe intuitively that if I look after myself now, I'm actually going to be stronger, fitter and healthier in my 50s and then 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s than I actually even am in my 40s. And I'm lucky to say that I am healthy and fit in my 40s, and I do look after myself, and I have been looking after myself well for the last 20 years since I've been in the wellness industry, since I've been interested in wellness, since I healed myself from that chronic illness back when I left university in my early 20s, and it really transformed my life. But I know that every day, every month, every year, I learn more. I step further into this healthy, strong, happy wellness version of myself. So I'm actually excited for the future. Lesson number 2 I learned on the yoga retreat in Turkey is that I have a choice in how I see every situation. Now, this came in very strongly in those first 2 days of storms. I had a different expectation, and what the reality was didn't meet that expectation at first, but I knew I could choose. I could either choose negativity, and let me tell you, there were moments when I felt negativity. I'm human, and that's going to happen. But I sat with that and I noticed what reaction I had to that. And then I chose positivity. Now, the other people on the retreat, and actually I would say that most people on the retreat were sort of late 50s to late 70s, all of them very into yoga, were all very positive. And despite there being challenges for them as well, with storms and various other things, the positivity I noticed and the choice to actually decide that they were going to look at a situation in a positive way was so inspiring to me. So I've now made the decision in as many situations as I can, when I find myself going to a default, and I do actually think that I have an inbuilt default to negativity. In fact, I think many of us do. I think it's very much to do with survival mechanism. I think it can be to do with past experiences and past situations as well. But I actually think that we are wired to look for danger all the time. And actually, then we tend to go more to the negative way of looking at things. But I want to look at the positive. So that is what I am going to choose. So when I feel it, I'm going to feel that feeling come up. I'm going to allow myself to sit in that negativity for a bit. I think that's okay. Let that emotion be within me. Around 90 seconds is always a good time. And then I'm going to allow myself to move through it rather than my default. So going back to what I was saying about default, which is to feel the negativity and then to want to react in that situation, or to even run away in some capacity. I notice I've got a pattern that I almost want to flee when a situation feels uncomfortable, and I want to choose that negativity. But I know I can take a deep breath. I can feel the negativity for a bit, I can let it move through me, and then I can move into a sense of positivity. And that is what I've been doing since I've been back. So I've been back about 3 weeks now. And I think it's really helped me with this luteal phase as well. As I said, I just have been almost symptom free. And although with something like PMDD, it's not something you can control, it's to do with an imbalance in your hormones. However, I do know when the feelings come up over the last few weeks, I have been able to say, okay, I'm feeling this feeling. Let's move through it and then choose positivity. So let's see how long it lasts. I hope it lasts a long time. But actually, again, I think it's about understanding that I'm human, giving myself a little bit of grace if I don't choose positivity every time, but if I can choose it, just to celebrate that as well. And another intuitive download and life lesson that I felt when I was there is strength training is going to serve me well for the next few decades. And again, this goes back to longevity, living till 100, how I live now is going to really feed into what the next 50 years are going to be like. But I am definitely a yoga, walking, even a bit of Pilates type of girl. And you guys know that I walk every day, I do yoga every day, and I've always brought a little bit of strength training into my yoga. So whether it be a little bit of Pilates, whether it be yoga where I'm really using my own body weight, whether it be a few core exercises or strengthening moves. But what I've been doing over the last year or so is trying to bring a little bit of strength training in the gym. Now, I'm not lifting big, heavy weights. I actually do think for certain people with certain body types that actually heavy weight is good. And I do want to build up to that for sure. But at the moment, I'm doing lighter weights. I'm going to the gym when I can. I've not got this rigid routine because rigid routines just don't suit me and who I am. But I know if I can strengthen my muscles, strengthen my bones, if I can bring in that to my routine a few times a week, this is going to serve my longevity so well. Lesson number 4 is that I am more resilient than I think. Now, there were definitely situations in the retreat where I felt a little bit challenged, a little bit uncomfortable, the storms, but sometimes it might have even been in a yoga pose, or it might have been in a certain situation where we are out and about and I wasn't in my comfort zone. But I noticed that I have resilience. Now, resilience isn't about never being challenged. Resilience is about actually having challenges and then having that strength to be able to deal with them and overcome them. So it ties in with all the other lessons I've talked about so far. But I actually felt really good within myself. I did have that resilience, and I want to lean into that side of myself even more in the rest of this year and definitely in 2026 as well. Lesson number 5, surrender brings peace. Now, I have a certain tendency to want to control situations around me. Now, I know that this is something I've been working on over many years. I definitely was much more like this in my teens and in my early 20s, but over the years, I've let go of this a lot more, and I'm a lot less controlling on myself and on other people, and I surrender much more into situations. But I really felt on retreat that the more I can surrender, and if you listen to my podcast a couple of weeks ago about letting go, the more that I can let go, the better I will feel and the more peace this will bring. And I've been trying to do this in the last few weeks since I've been back from the yoga retreat, and it has been so good. Rather than thinking I'm going to try and control that outcome or going to try and push this situation, I've actually just taken some action, then stepped back a little bit and allowed it to unfold. And I have felt such a sense of deep inner peace and calmness. So that is definitely my goal. And I think autumn is a great time to do this. So it's definitely about surrender and letting go. The trees are letting go and surrendering of their leaves. They're falling onto the floor. They're ready for the next chapter, cycling into winter. And I think in autumn, if we can also let go, if we can surrender, it's a wonderful time to do that. And we're in the Chinese year of the snake, which is about shedding those skins, about letting go, about peeling back layers. So I'm really stepping into that sense of surrendering and just allowing myself to be a little bit softer in situations and then to enjoy the calm that comes with that. Lesson number 6 is sit with uncomfortable feelings, then move through them. And again, this ties into the other lessons I've just talked about, but I don't think we allow ourselves to actually sit with and acknowledge uncomfortable feelings enough. I think we either get super used to them and we allow ourselves to identify with them and hold on to them and even try and control them, or we just completely dismiss them. If they come, we try and override them straight away with a comfortable feeling like happiness or joy or laughter, or we try and numb them. So we numb them with social media, with caffeine, with alcohol, can be any of those things. But I think we should actually sit with an uncomfortable feeling and then let it release, because actually uncomfortable feelings do want to release. We just don't give them the chance to do that because we don't acknowledge they're there. And that's all they want. They want that acknowledgement. And it can be an acknowledgement through self. You can ask that acknowledgement from somebody else. It doesn't always work out the way that you want to when that happens, but sometimes you can tell someone how you feel. They might give you acknowledgement or sympathy, and that allows it to move through for you. But that doesn't always happen. Maybe you don't have someone who is able to do that in a conscious way for you. So do it for yourself. So if in this moment you're feeling a sense of maybe sadness, anger, fatigue, irritability, overwhelm, loneliness, whatever it might be, I want you just to simply place 2 hands on your heart, take a deep breath, sit with it, notice how that feeling feels, notice where you're feeling it in your body, maybe even give it a colour or a shape. And when you've done that, simply notice it's there, thank it for anything that it's given you, thank it for serving you, thank you for it coming up, because often there's a reason that it does, and then give it permission to release. Let it go. Now, you may need to give it a helping hand. You may need to do some breath to release it. You may need to visualize that place in your body being covered in a healing light. If you visualize that feeling as a particular color or a particular shape, maybe see that melting down, see that gently releasing, gently moving away from your body. Maybe you need to go a little bit deeper to release it. Maybe you need to actually move your body. Maybe you need to shake out your body. Maybe you need to bring your arms up in the air and take a deep breath out through your mouth as you come forward and feel it physically releasing. Maybe you need to go out for a walk and let it release like that, but give it that permission to be there and then give it permission to release. And I promise you, you won't feel stuck with it. You won't identify with it in the same way. It won't become your reality in the same way, but also you won't feel the need to dismiss it or to numb it as well. Lesson number 7, be a student as well as a teacher. Now, I think this is a good life lessons for all of us, but actually it was particularly relevant for me because I'm so used to being a teacher, but something I've leaned into, particularly over the last year or two, is actually being a student and reminding myself how much I enjoy learning from other people. And I've always had a thirst for learning. I often talk about how I take training courses every year or every other year, how I enjoy going to other people's yoga classes and workshops, how I work with business coaches and therapists and acupuncturists and chiropractors and lots of different people that help me and help teach me and where I'm the student. But I'm leaning into this even more. And on the retreat, I had 2 of my friends as the teachers there, but I very much was in student energy. So although I spent a lot of my time socializing with them, when I was in their classes, I was very much there to learn, to absorb, and to be taught. Now, I think this can be really relevant for us in every area of life. I think we can always learn from every person we come across, and even when we come across people who we find challenging or we find difficult, I think there's always a lesson to be learned. So go through life as a student mindset, as a student mentality. You'll always stay curious and you'll always learn things that are going to help you to become a better person and become a better leader and a better teacher as well. So lesson number 8 is treat people the way you want to be treated. Now, I actually had a conversation while I was on retreat with one of the other students, a lovely lady, and she is in her late 70s, and she was telling me about her children who are my age, they're in their mid-40s, and they live really close to her. And I was saying how lovely it is that they live so close to her. And she said to me, Danielle, if you want your children to always stay close to you, treat them the way that you would like to be treated, and then always want to be around you. And that really hit me hard. I actually thought, yes, that is exactly the parent I want to be. I hope that I am. I definitely hope that I am. But I definitely feel like we can all be better at that. And I know that I can step into this even more so. But also, I've always gone through life wanting to treat everyone, not only my children, but everyone around me, the way that I want to be treated, with kindness, with love, and with respect. But I want this to be at the forefront of the way that I am around everyone. I want to treat everybody with such kindness, such respect, and such love, even more than I have over my life so far. So that is such a strong lesson. I really wasn't expecting. It was a very short conversation with someone, but something which had a massive impact on me. Lesson number 9, eat foods as close to nature as possible. Now, the food on retreat was very simple, very fresh, very local, and very nutritious. Now, of course, I know that eating food close to nature is good for us. But again, it's something which really came to the forefront of my mind while I was there. And I really said to myself, in my daily life, when I'm back at home, I want to ask myself, how close to nature is this? And not only that, it's really made me think about how far away my food comes from. So actually, how I could start to eat a lot more local. I live in an area which is quite rural. I live on the outskirts of the city of Bath. So I am, of course, close to a city, but there's many, many farms around where I live. And I thought to myself, why am I buying certain fruit and vegetables from halfway across the world when I could buy things from the area that already surrounds me? So that is something which I definitely learned, and I'm going to lean into even more. And I'm excited to eat even fresher, even more natural, and even more seasonally and local as well. Lesson number 10, when reality doesn't meet your expectations, change your expectations. Something which I journaled on a lot on retreat was how I have certain expectations about how a situation is going to be. And if that situation doesn't meet my expectations, then I often notice a lot of feelings of frustration, annoyance, maybe sadness or worry about that situation. Now, I decided whilst I was on retreat in my day-to-day life, if something wasn't what I expected, I'm just going to lean into that reality. And going back to a previous lesson I've talked about, choose positivity in that situation. Lesson number 11, positive people attract positive people. Now, my teachers on the retreat, Jane and Bex, are such positive people that actually attracted the students there, the other 15 people that were there, really positive people. Now, earlier I talked about the positivity was there and how people were choosing to look at a situation as a positive way, not a negative way. But actually, I realized that these positive people were there because they were all friends with each other and because they knew Jane and Bex as yoga teachers. And it literally is contagious. When one person's positive, it attracts another positive person, then that person brings some friends with them and they're positive people. So it then becomes this really magnetic thing. And it's really made me understand and realize the more I can feel positive, the more I'm going to attract positive people into my life. But also the more I consciously decide to be around positive people, the more positive I'm going to feel as well. So again, it was something really profound that I felt when I was there, I experienced when I was there, but I hope to take into my day-to-day life for as long as I possibly can. Lesson number 12, to find creativity, find space. Now, this is something that I have really learned since I've been doing this month on, month off with my work. The months off, even though I have been working much more so in 2025 on my months off, I have had that space to work creatively, because when I have that space away from the day-to-day, and for me it's away from the day-to-day teaching and content creation and running of the business, I can then come up with creative ideas. And on retreat, I had a whole week to myself. I had plenty of time to journal. One of the days I sat on a sun lounger and I pretty much journaled for 3 hours straight, just everything flowing out of me. My worries, my fears, my goals, my dreams, my strategies, everything was coming out because I'd had already at that point maybe 4 days on the retreat. So I'd found that space in my mind, I'd found that space in my body, and therefore I was able to have these really clear ideas. So it doesn't need to be a whole yoga retreat to find this space. It can literally be going out for a walk for 10 minutes. It can be taking yourself to somewhere really quiet that feels relaxing for you. It can be taking a shower or a bath. I always find creative ideas for me come when I'm in water. So do what it takes for you, but give yourself that space every week to have a little bit of time for creativity. And whether it's to do with your work or your business or your life in general, that time will be so well spent, because when you're creative, you have ideas and you have vision and you have strategy and you have foresight and you know exactly what to do when you're putting the action in. And my final lesson, lesson number 13 that I learned on the yoga retreat, is nothing stays the same forever. And I think it was Jane, the main yoga teacher there, who said this to me. And she said, nothing stays the same forever and everything in life changes. And I thought that's such an important thing to realize. We often get stuck in the thought that our current situation is the way that we will be forever. Now, of course, we should know, if we actually think about our life to this point and how many things in our life have changed, that actually things are always going to change. But I think for many of us, me included, we often think that our reality is now and it's going to carry on that way forever. But things really are going to change and do change. Sometimes it's going to be for the better. Sometimes it might not always be for the better. But I think as soon as we surrender and we understand and we acknowledge and we let go, then we really can see that actually that can be a good thing. And that's okay, because I think if we have fear of change, then we're never going to enjoy the present moment. But if we say that the present moment is what it is, let's enjoy it, but let's know that things will change in the future, hopefully for the better. But if not for the better, we will have that resilience and that choice of positivity, that acknowledgement of any negative emotions and allowing it to pass through us in our own time. And we will find that strength within us to overcome anything that comes up. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this. If you would like your own retreat in your own time, in your own home, I have a bundle called the Face Yoga Retreat Bundle. Now, it's wonderful value. It's only £61, and you have on there 4 retreats. Now, these retreats are focused on face yoga, of course, but everything else I have ever offered. So you have got yoga on there, Pilates, you've got crystal bowl sound healing, you've got Reiki, you've got breath work, you've got meditation, you've got affirmations. There is so much in there. I know you're going to absolutely love it. They are all themed as well, and you've got lifetime access. And for 4 retreats, it's only £61. And all of the retreats are all made into smaller sections, so you can dip in and out of it, or you can use each one like a full half-day retreat. It's actually 4 half-day retreats. So go ahead and go to my website, faceyogaexpert.com, click on courses, and then look for the Face Yoga Retreat Bundle. It's £61. I'll also put the link in the show notes for you. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have enjoyed listening or watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway about today's podcast was. If you're listening on the podcast, please just take 30 seconds. You don't need to sign in or do anything like that, and just give it a quick 5-star review or any amount of stars you want. It means so much. It means that the podcast gets seen by more people. I appreciate you being here. I have so much love and so much respect for you, and I am so honored to be part of this community. Take care. Bye-bye.